response to the objection?
The witness did not prepare the plan. However, if you look on the plan, it's done by the Brandywine Conservancy based on data sources from Chester and Delaware County.
Ms. Thacker, how are you familiar with Exhibit T4? What is your experience or knowledge of the exhibit?
So my knowledge is that I am part of this advisory committee with the Brandywine Conservancy to develop, discuss, review, to create this heritage plan to connect all of these places together. I'm just on the committee. I'm not a chair and I'm not on the Conservancy, but I am a member representing our Thornbury Township as to our response to what they've presented and how the future they want to see for the battlefield.
So did the committee's input inform the map that we're seeing here as Exhibit T4?
It is currently in process, so yes, we discussed this, I think, last week during a meeting, and it will be revised based on that meeting. So this was what they presented to us. We gave feedback to them last week. I expected to have some modifications after that meeting.
Pat, this is a draft plan with a witness who is not credible to testify with respect to the elements that go into or appear on this plan. It's irrelevant. It's not part of Westtown Township's applicable regulations or ordinances. I move for this testimony to be stricken and this exhibit to be not allowed as admissible.
Ms. Lieber?
The purpose of Ms. Thacker's testimony was to ask the board to take into consideration Chester County's future plans for trails, bikeways, etc., through the intersection of 926, through the Spackman property, and up along the corridor that you can see on these exhibits. I think she has the knowledge and has expended time and is aware of what the community is attempting to build, not on the applicant's property, but to the west of the applicant's property, including on the Spackman farm, on property that's already been eased.
All right, I think the board is likely wants to hear the testimony, and I think we'll overrule the objection, and the board can afford it the weight that it believes it's entitled to as it moves forward with its decision.
Can I comment, Pat?
Yeah, go ahead.
The Westtown Township is part of the battlefield process that she's referring to that is in this map with Chester and Chester County for battlefield markers and a driving tour. And the same group, I understand, is working on that. And the county is involved. And I think that I'd like to hear what she has to say about whether it's bicycle, multimodal, or otherwise.
Understood. So that we have overruled the objection. So, Ms. Thacker, you're able to answer.
Michelle, if you can just describe for the board what the purpose and the plans and the vision of this group in Chester County is.
Sure. So the overall vision is for us to create gateways, heritage centers, gateway centers that really create a destination for not only the local community, but larger community to come and learn about the battle and to be able to go to these different properties, learn a piece here, learn a piece there. And interconnectivity is a huge part of that. You need to be able to get from one spot to another, and the greater ways that we can do that, again, biking, walking, driving, the more ways you can access it, the more accessibility it is, the more available it is to everyone. So really, our goal is to teach the history of this area and make those connections so that it's easy for people to do and to learn and to get engaged.
Is one of the stated goals of this county group to create a series of interconnected trails between the sites from Sandy Hollow along South New Street to Osborne Hill and beyond?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, along Sandy Hollow, along South New Street to,
Osborne Hill?
Osborne
Thank you.
Hill. Yep, that's correct. And I can't really, if you zoom in a little bit,
I think you may have a larger map of the exact scheme map at T6.
yeah, that might be Exhibit 5, but yes, you can see that path travels all the way through Birmingham and Thornbury, up New Street, and even across Pleasant Grove. Exactly, yep. And ideally all the way up into Westchester proper, as it goes north. Exactly. So, as I said, I mean, we're really looking to connect all of these sites to each other in one way, one way or another. So,
And the multimodal methods, what are they? Are they vehicles, cars, or something?
Cars, horses, wouldn't necessarily say skateboards because we don't expect them all to be paved trails. And certainly if we can take advantage of a road, that's something we want to look at, but we also want to review safety factors. I know, just as an example, on South New Street, there's a bit of a hill as you're coming between Sandy Hollow and 926, and honestly, traffic never goes 25 like they're supposed to. So that's dangerous for pedestrians and people riding bikes. So there we would propose that it would kind of go off-road a little bit, which the Spackman Farm has easements to allow for that.
And so the trail moves off of the paved cartway there onto the Spackman property to allow for horses and pedestrian trails there?
Correct. That's the intent. Yep.
And then after the Spackman property, it reverts back onto South New Street, the paved roadway?
Yes, that's my understanding.
All right.
And I don't fully know all of the easements on the properties because obviously they're not publicly owned, so. But we're reaching out to homeowners and property owners to find out what those easements are, if there are any, so that we know how to direct these paths and make suggestions as to how to make this happen.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Edelman, do you have any questions for the witness?
No questions. Now we're going to have every person.
Oh, I'm sorry, whoever was speaking, if you wouldn't mind, please muting. Kristen Camp, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Morrow or anyone for Neighbors for Crebilly?
No questions. No questions.
Mr. Crawford, anything for Birmingham?
No questions, Pat, thank you.
Mr. Bevilacqua?
No questions because I have no idea what that had to do with the testimony.
Mr. Spackman?
Yes, I have a question. Ms. Shakra, you're aware of, you testified about the chimney house. How far off 926 is that home?
We believe about 10 to 12 feet.
So there could be no PennDOT improvements to the south of Crebilly on 926.
Correct. It would be very detrimental to the house.
How strong a building material is serpentine stone?
Oh, not much at all. It practically crumbles when you touch it. So it is very much in danger. I mean, already from traffic, and the vibration from the road. So going any closer is just not an option for that particular house.
Okay, thank you. And with on T6, if they could zoom in a little bit closer to the intersection. Yes, right there. There's a blue dot on Thornbury Farm. What does that represent?
Right. So that represents a potential heritage center on your property. So a place where people can come, park, read all about what occurred in this area over time, and well, we're not sure of all the facilities that will be there, but certainly would be handicap accessible and a destination, essentially.
Okay, and thank you. And you mentioned how the lines indicate potential trails access. Some of them are on road, some of them are off road, some of them are next to the road. Is one of the concepts, I believe you mentioned, try to take that pathway up to 920, South New Street to the Westchester University and Westchester proper?
Correct.
Now I see one line going across kind of horizontally. I guess that's West Pleasant Grove Road. Is that correct?
That one, yes.
Now there's that new connection road, Orvis Way. What's above Orvis Way? There's a school there, correct?
Yes.
So theoretically, the school could come down Orvis Way, across Pleasant Grove Road, down South New Street, to the Heritage Center in Sandy Hollow in the Battlefield, correct?
Oh, without question, it would be a great field trip. It would be wonderful.
So these are basically trail recommendations that homeowners, private, public lands are trying to bestow the ownership and the value of what happened here on the battlefield to try to get the connectivity between the different sites together, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speckman. Mr. Karakoff, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Sure. Mr. McFalls, any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hurst, anything for Quarry Swimming Association?
No questions, thanks.
Robert Dahl?
Actually, Pat, we have Priya Pinto is on the line now.
Ms. Pinto, do you have any questions?
I've asked for you to unmute. If you can unmute yourself, please, if you have a comment.
Ms. Pinto, are you able to unmute? Do you have any comments? Maggie, maybe you can take down the exhibit so we can see everyone.
Yes.
Okay, we have no comments. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. So now I'll go back to Mr. Dahl. Do you have any questions? Mr. Dahl still on?
I think he may have hopped off.
All right.
I don't see him.
Edwin or Legita Boyer?
No questions.
Thank you. Jennifer Kramer?
No questions.
Carol Weller?
No questions.
William Worth?
No questions.
Linda Miller?
No questions.
Ellen Steele?
No questions, but great idea.
Thank you. Mr. Simkovich?
Yes, I have at least one question. Can we put the slide back up again? I think that'll do. What is the purple asterisk designation?
So it's not exactly clear. I think it's designated as other historic resources. So whether it was an event that took place there or it has a specific name.
Well, unless I miss my guess, from the way I'm looking at the map, if you go up South New Street and you go past Street Road, you're going to see a purple dot there between 926 and Pleasant Grove Road, which is on the Crebilly property, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay, can you kind of explain what that is, what the significance is, why?
Objection. Witness isn't qualified to answer any questions with respect.
But it is on the Crebilly property, isn't it?
Wait, Mr. Simkovich, you can't talk over him. You gotta wait a minute.
I'll repeat the objection. The objection is the witness is not qualified to testify with respect to historic events.
But a person is qualified to say it's on the Crebilly property, correct?
Well, hang on. Does she know what the designation is, what it's supposed to be there for?
I cannot answer that. I do not know exactly what that specific star represents.
So that answers the question.
But, okay, that's just to be clear, though, there is something that the Brandywine Battlefield put on the map that shows there's something important that they would like to have be seen by somebody, by the people doing the trails.
And again, I object to the admittance of this exhibit for this very reason. I do not have the ability to cross-examine anyone with respect to what appears on this plan.
So we've already ruled on the objection.
I renew it again based upon the new question from the new.
Let me get my statement out. But since the witness doesn't know what's on there, I'll sustain the objection as to what it depicts. I mean, she simply doesn't know the answer to the question.
Then I would move to strike the additional question and comments that's coming from the current questioner with respect to characterizing what appears on the plan that I've objected to.
I'm going to wait to hear what the next question is before we do any further objection.
I'm just talking about what he just asked. He started to make a comment instead of a question.
All right. Mr. Simkovich, do you have any other questions?
Apparently not. Moving on.
Mr. Mejia, any questions?
Actually, I'm a woman, but no, I don't have any questions.
All right. Apologize, ma'am.
No problem.
Dr. Wright or William Vosberg?
We had no questions. I lost my track where I was. Sorry.
That's fine, thank you. Richard Hurst or Suzanne Kruger?
No questions, thanks.
Thomas Martin or Renee Rockwood?
No questions at this time.
Myron or Sharon Grubal?
We have no questions at this time, thank you.
And David Teal?
I believe he's off the call.
Does the board have any questions?
I do, Pat, but since I went first before Carol or Scott wishes to go first, feel free.
do, I will ask you what the relationship of this map is to the video tour being completed, the driving tour to the sites, which are those, in part, those little red, purple asterisks, or those little purple stars, whatever.
So what is, I'm sorry, can you ask that again? I'm not sure.
So the Brandywine Heritage Interpretation Plan has elements of the driving tour to sites with a video, etc., and some markers, okay, that Westtown is participating in. So I'd like to know how this that you've presented here to us relates to that.
So if you look at the legend on the map, you can see that like the blue is a multi-use trail, and the orange with the yellow highlight is the bicycle concept. So how they relate to each other, I mean, they're interconnected. As far as the video tour, I do not know, I don't know where that stands to be able to pinpoint what you see or what you'll learn where. So I'm sorry, I'm not entirely understanding, I guess, what you're asking. Because I don't know where it's all going to land at the end of the day. It's in process, so.
Okay, could you push the map back up into where we had it when the gentleman was asking about the stars, to the Crebilly side? Right there, that's good. Now, so the star on the left is Osborne Hill, recently protected, and the idea of a multimodal walking portion or what have you, visitation, is to kind of go from viewing that to the Battle of Brandywine, that is where the star is on the Crebilly side. Are you suggesting that they would go along South New Street to learn about or visit those particular places?
I'm going to object. I believe that this is beyond the witness's testimony, and Supervisor DeWolf is supplying the testimony to the witness, in other words, leading the witness.
Well, let me ask it a different way. What is the point of this map in respect to the Crebilly site, Osborne Hill there, and the view that we have right now?
Right, so the goal is to have some sense of what existed, ideally, during the battle. So keeping a viewshed is ideal for getting from site to site. We don't anticipating getting to every site, but any viewshed that we can protect along those paths will help a visitor experience the battlefield generally as it was, although, you know, obviously trees grow and and dirt piles up, so there's obviously change, but yes, the goal would be to preserve as much of those views and landscape as possible along the routes.
And another question then is, I see a bicycle concept plan and bicycle multimodal connections referenced in the map. Is it the intent to be able to connect a trail on Crebilly, the farm design, so that individuals there can then access these other locations along the site through multimodal trails of sorts?
There has not been a discussion about connecting to something that doesn't exist yet, but certainly having some sort of accessibility to it makes all the sense in the world. We would want someone living there to be able to use those paths without question.
And you testified as to a property, a structure. Can you point out where that structure is to me?
Sure.
On your map?
So if you see the little I, go directly north of that, and it's on that southeast corner of 926 and New Street. So up a little to the right, no, not there, to go right, yep, down, go up, there you go. No, it's on the south side of 926. That's it, yay, that's where it is. It's so hard when you can't point yourself.
So it's the Spackman property house?
Yes.
Correct? I get it, okay.
Yep.
Thank you, I have no other questions.
Thank you, Carol.
Hi, it's Dick. Can I go ahead?
Please.
Michelle, I'm going to start with, we don't know each other, is correct?
Correct.
So the reason I'm at, first of all, I hope that if you don't mind, I'd like to call you Michelle, unless you prefer Ms. Stockrow.
Of course.
I'm going to, what I'm hoping here is that it'll be understood by Greg and the other legal counsel. That's why I'm about to say the following, because it actually leads to my question. One, I appreciate what this sort of this education that's been given, and I come to this a little bit differently than probably most anybody sitting and listening. I'm a born Canadian. I can tell you that all of this probably took up 10 minutes of all of my elementary and high school education in Canada, and it's been always, I've learned a great deal, and so I appreciate it. That's the context then for the question, and the question is, and it was hinted before, and I'd like to, maybe you can give an answer, and I'm not asking for an interpretation, I'm asking literally, why is this relevant for the decision that this board has to make regarding Crebilly?
So I believe it's important for the board to take into consideration the goals of the county, the planning commission, the Brandywine Conservancy, the Battlefield Associates. It's important to understand and respect the history of this area and what is proposing to be done to be able to educate people, have people enjoy what we have here in this resource. And because once it's gone forever. And we just want you to understand what the overall plans are for this and to help us get there, because it's important to the community and the community that's looking to build here. It will be important to them too.
I appreciate that, and I'm about to ask a question that's going to sound not particularly, I'm trying to think of the right word. Please understand, it's not meant to be disrespectful. It's actually, in a sense, empathetic towards you. I almost feel that you've been thrown into the lion's den here, dealing with an issue that you yourself are saying you have involvement, but it's a tangential involvement, and then there are a lot of key constituencies or stakeholders, as you've just listed some of them, who might have been in a more advantageous position to relate some of these issues and maybe respond to some of Mr. Edelman's criticisms or
No criticism.
doubts. Why were you selected?
Well, I am the Thornbury Historical Commission Chair. So I expected to come tonight and discuss our property, the Chimney House, and my knowledge of what I have been working on as part of these other groups. Am I the chair of all those other groups? No, I am not. So yes, my knowledge is limited, but I do have some, and I wanted to share what I did know with you. And yes, if you want more expert opinion, I suggest highly that you bring on the chairperson of the Battlefield Associates and the Brandywine Conservancy, etc.
Well, I'll speak for myself, and I want to thank you for doing this. I know it's not easy, and it's been illustrative, but I think it's been helpful. And with that, I want to thank you, and I'll turn it back to Pat.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you. Ms. Labram, do you have any redirect?
I don't.
Okay.
I would request that Thornbury Township's exhibits be moved into evidence, both these from this evening and Thornbury Township's previous testimony and previous exhibits.
So we haven't moved any of the exhibits in, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, yet. I think we'll wait till the end. The one thing I will note, Kathy, that I wanted to talk to you about was that in Crebilly 1, you did have a T1 exhibit. So rather than duplicating and making this T1, would you mind if we make this T1A for the record, and then that way I don't have to change the rest of the township's exhibits as they're marked? Do you have any objections to my doing so?
Sorry about that. It's a good idea.
All right, so I'm just going to clarify that for the record. We'll make tonight's T1, T1A. We'll hold off on ruling on admissibility, but we'll note that you've moved to do so. So Thornbury rests at this point. You have nothing else for tonight?
Nothing else. Thank them for their time and their consideration of Thornbury's concerns.
And thank you to Ms. Thackborough for your testimony. Maggie, if you wouldn't mind bringing down the exhibit.
We also have a hand raised from Neighbors for Crebilly.
Okay, would you mind, you can unmute them?
They are unmuted.
Yes, it's Vince Moore of Neighbors for Crebilly. I know we had a chance to comment earlier, but I just wanted to know if I could add on to Michelle's comments real fast.
So,
sorry, I'm objecting.
Mr. Moore, I'm going to go. Hang on, Mr. Moore. I'm going to go through the parties. It was my understanding that you didn't have any case to put on, but if you want to make a statement under oath, I can give you that opportunity. You'll be subject to cross-examination from anybody else.
Sure. I just want to make a statement when it's okay to make a statement.
Okay. So that's what I was going to say. Is at this point, now that Thornbury has finished their case, Birmingham is not putting on a case. Neighbors, I didn't expect to put on anything, but we can have Mr. Morrow sworn in on behalf of Neighbors for Crebilly, and then you can make whatever statement you'd like to make. And I can go through my list of the unrepresented parties, but as I said, you'll be subject to any cross-examination from any of the parties as well.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just a statement I'd like to make.
Mr. McKenna, I'd object to any statements at this point. This is an evidentiary portion of the case, not a public comment or a statement.
It is, but he's a party and he's allowed to make the statement. You can cross-examine him on that statement. When you can object to the statement, it's up to you, but as a party, give him the opportunity.
Or Pat, or Mr. Morrow can just wait and make the statement during the public comment portion.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'll make the statement during public comment. Thank you.
That's fine. All right, so moving down through my list, Mr. Bevilacqua, is there any case that you'd like to put on for the school district or West Glen HOA?
No, I do not have one for either party.
Thank you. Mr. Spackman, anything for you to present for Thornbury Farm Trust?
I would like to make a statement.
Again, same objection. It's an evidentiary part of the case. If there's no evidence being put on, I don't think parties should be able to just make statements.
The evidence would be the efforts and easements we've done to date to try to create a cohesive battlefield plan.
Well, again, my position, I'll do whatever the board wants. My position is, as a party, he can go ahead and make his statement. You have the right to object to his statements. You have the right to cross-examine the statement. But as a party, because I don't know what he's going to say, I'm not going to preclude him. He could do a narrative testimony for all I know. So I don't know what the board's preference is. My suggestion is that we let Mr. Spackman say whatever it is he's going to say under oath, and then if there's cross-examination, you could ask him the questions.
Pat, then I would ask for an offer of proof before each person is able to make their statement, so I can lodge my objections.
That's fine, Greg, but I'm still going to give them the opportunity, in all likelihood, to make their statement, as we did with Crebilly 1.
So Pat, the other thing I would, though, suggest, you just explain to the parties who are here representing themselves that they have the ability to make a statement during public comment, and they are not subject to cross-examination at that point in time.
That's correct.
If they so choose. They also now have the ability to put in evidence by sworn testimony.
Right.
And I think Mr. Edelman's right. If he can insist, we don't have to agree, but he can insist on an offer of proof. And it may make sense because many of these statements may be just that, public comment.
Correct, and I wouldn't object to that public comment.
Understood. But so for the people, for the parties who Pat's going to reach as we go, you kind of have your own decision to make, and we can't really guide you. It's not really for the board, obviously, to guide anybody how to either put their case on or make a decision about